We are compelled to acknowledge the suffering and the connection of Ms. Rayme and all victims of physical and emotional abuse. Allow me to cut across the field and connect the dots. There is, in fact, a connection, an inextricable link, if you will, between Buffalo, New York, Uvalde, Texas, and Jacksonville, Florida. It seems as though we are confronted every week with unprovoked, cowardly acts and attacks. So what do we feel? We get up this morning feeling anger, bitterness, anguish, hurt, pain, and of course, rage. What transpired at that BP service station was physical and emotional abuse. It was in fact appalling, savage, barbaric, vicious, and brutal. Ms. Rayme McCoy was singled out because of her race, but its impact is much broader than that. What happened at the BP service station amounted to an attack on the very heart, body, soul, and consciousness of the greater Jacksonville community. As an organization, the Northside Coalition, we are drawing a line in the sand. We will not and cannot allow or tolerate these kinds of racist attacks and attitudes to go unchecked. We will not allow or tolerate white racist attacks on black women here in Jacksonville, Florida. We are drawing a line in the sand. We demand that this man be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This incident was a hate crime, and it should be prosecuted as such. What are we asking? We're asking that State Attorney Melissa Nelson to meet with us immediately to discuss this matter. The Northside Coalition is a nonviolent civil rights organization, but still, we are drawing the line in the sand. We have a same, simple, and reasonable request, and that is upgrade this charge to a felony and deem it to be a hate crime because it is. It was committed in what the perpetrator himself described as Blacktown.
Thank you, Ben.
Good morning. My name is Shakria Williams. I am the mother of Rayme McCoy. Our family would like to thank Attorney John Phillips and the associates of Phillips and Hunt Law Office. We also want to thank community activist Ben Frazier, the head of the Northside Coalition, for assisting us through this unfortunate event. In addition, we would like to thank the citizens of Jacksonville, Florida, furthermore, the multitude of people across the United States who have shared my daughter's story or reached out just to simply give us kind words of encouragement. As a woman, I am infuriated to know that a man would brutally attack a woman due to his own personal anger and rage. As a mother, you always want to make sure your children are safe. My heart aches knowing that I was unable to protect my daughter from this heinous crime. It disturbs me to know that my daughter now feels unsettled about entering a gas station alone. As a human, it saddens me that we still live in a world of racism and hate. Again, I just want to thank everyone for their continuous support. We would like to see justice in this case. Please keep our family in your prayers.
Thank you. They call this practicing for a reason. We're all practicing. We're all trying to get better. We're all trying to learn from our previous mistakes, our previous issues. or are we? The first case that I really had the cameras in front of me was Jordan Davis. Young African-American teenager gunned down at a gas station over hate. Certainly, Rayme McCoy sits next to me where Jordan never did. Big difference. Does that make her fortunate? No. Does that make her lucky? No. Kevin Troy Williamson, the perpetrator here, has tried to tell us for decades who he is. Registered sex offender since the 80s and 90s. He's tried to tell us he can't be trusted with civility with all of his arrests. It's a compact we all have when we go out in public that we're going to be civil to one another, that we're going to treat each other right, that we're going to care about one another. But when our leaders, when our politicians, when our elected officials don't follow that, of course we're in a situation where people go into schools and shoot them up, where people can't even go get gas safely. So you can't say, thankfully, Rayme's alive. But thankfully, compared to the tragedy yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before, we're mindful that the loss is different. She has a concussion, a significant head injury. She's headed to counseling. She can't even sit through this press conference without being overwhelmed with a reminder of what happened to her last Friday. So Kevin Troy Williamson tried to tell everybody he's a predator. He was convicted of a predatory sex crime in 1990, 2 counts of aggravated assault in 2000. Guess what? Dropped. Battery charge in 2001. Dropped. Failure to comply with sex offender registry and drug charges. In 2009, he told somebody he'd kill them with knives and swords. Okay? When somebody tries to tell you who they are, police and prosecutors need to do a better job about listening. No one listened to what Mr. Williamson, Kevin, was trying to tell us. We've got to do a better job about listening when somebody tells us they have mental illness, when they're violent, and when they're a predator. Okay? When Michael Dunn ran away like the coward he is after killing Jordan, he came back and said, well, what was I going to do? You know, Jacksonville is a black town, or Jacksonville is known for its gangs, or Jacksonville, blah, blah, blah. And in 2 separate trials, we proved it wasn't true, that Michael Dunn was the predator, that Michael Dunn was the thug, that Michael Dunn was the person that needed to never see free life again. We're headed in that same direction with that same story, and if we don't do something about it, the next person might not be quote unquote lucky. So, given Ms. McCoy's brain injury, the words of hate used, we echo Mr. Frazier's sentiment that this needs to be investigated fully as a hate crime. That because of the significance of her injury, the battery charge needs to be aggravated battery. The great thing about being a lawyer is, the first call I got this morning was from the state attorney's office. So the family is meeting with the state attorney's office today. When people care, elected officials tend to care, and people care about Ms. McCoy. She's surrounded by love. She appreciates it. I have on the table over there the arrest report, for those that you guys probably all have it, my letter to Melissa Nelson's office, and we thank you for your time. Ms. McCoy isn't speaking. The family's going to kind of defer questions to me and Mr. Frazier, but if you have questions, we'll answer them.
Is there any audio at all? I know the video didn't have any audio, but is there any other cameras or surveillance inside the gas station that might have gotten any audio?
Right. So surveillance cameras generally can't record audio because of two-party consent laws. So there is no known audio inside the facility. We went by there yesterday and asked for the video, and of course they said get it from JSO, which we will. The interesting thing is it's my understanding that when police went to visit Mr. Williamson after he ran off like a coward, that they had body cams, thankfully. And so when Mr. Williams told police, "This is a black town, what do you expect me to do?" he said it on recording. So there's going to be evidence of the hate in his heart and how he really feels about this, that this wasn't self-defense. All she did, he rudely put his beers, on the counter. All she did was move it over, and he flipped out. She just wanted to get gas and get out of there. So, we don't expect there's going to be audio. There are some more witnesses that we'd like to talk to. The person identified in the police report is an Iranian or other person of color I haven't spoken to yet. I would like to show that this was kind of part of the pattern and practice of that day for Kevin Williamson.
I do have a quick question. I want to preface that this is going to be an uncomfortable question, but I feel like you guys deserve the opportunity to respond to what Williamson told police in this report. He tries to claim, well, she hit me first. I'm not justifying, this is from the report. I just want to give the family an opportunity to answer.
Go ahead, Ben.
Well, I'd like to be able to steep my response, which is shortened to the point, with one phrase: consider the source.
This is what he's done. Look, I don't come out here and try somebody's past unless I have to. And when you have 2 counts of aggravated assault, a battery charge, a predatory sex crime, okay, for 30 years, and he wants credibility over somebody who was just getting gas, you can't even get past that 10 minutes before without somebody else having a documented confrontation with this guy. So his life and freedom are on the line. So I would expect him to say, let's run this stand your ground thing up the flagpole, but it is a false flag.
And I'd also suggest, from a reporter position, that you consider the comment that he made while talking to Rayme McCoy inside the station. And that was this ghostly warning: I have a gun in my car.
Right.
That should not be overlooked in any of the reporting here, that this whole thing, which went sideways from the very beginning, could actually have gotten much worse. All she asked for was space, which is something we all should have when we're doing business in a safe space and place. And what she got instead was a beatdown at the hands of a 220-pound, 59-year-old white man beating on a 23-year-old black woman half his size. It was vicious, it was brutal, it was appalling, it was horrific and egregious. We need to just pause for a moment and call it what it is. Consider, if it were your daughter, how you would feel, how you would react. Consider if it were you, yourself, confronted with a madman who was in fact spouting, raving, and ranting and shouting derogatory racial epithets, slurs, and racial insinuations. It was a hate crime, and it should be prosecuted as such. Melissa Nelson should not drag her feet, straddle the fence, beat around the mulberry bush. She needs to just call it like it is.
Any other questions?
He was booked on May 20th. He was bonded out 11/49 the 21st. What was your response to that?
I can respond.
Yeah.
Number one, to this very moment, I think Kevin Troy Williamson is a threat to public safety that everybody in Jacksonville should be concerned with. His bonding out is one thing. The procrastination and the slowness in which JSO moved in terms of his arrest is another. Why is it that someone that they knew who he was, had his tag number on the date of the actual incident, why should it take 4 to 5 days before he was arrested? What lesson does that teach us? We are confronted with the same thing when it comes down to JSO and the state attorney's office that we have concerned ourselves with for the past 5 years. Trust, transparency, and accountability. That is what we are demanding here today as we move forward. Trust, transparency, and accountability. We think that there's too often racial bias, implicit and explicit, in terms of the criminal justice system, in terms of law enforcement. It's time for us to move forward. And Melissa Nelson can make clear on where we are if she moves to deem this as a hate crime. Melissa came into office in January 2017 because so many of us felt like the person who preceded her was insensitive to the needs of the community, that there was a critical disconnect between the state attorney's office and the people. We are hopeful that we can make and cover new ground with Ms. Nelson. She needs to move forward and call it like it is.
And I think Ms. McCoy's tears tell you the answer to your question, you know? Nobody wants the person that did this out on the street, but there's also the Constitution, right? He is entitled to bond. Now, that can all be reevaluated if all of a sudden he's facing an appropriate arrest, an appropriate additional charges, which, again, you know, we move forward while appreciating the past. That's, again, the practicing thing. And to have a meeting today, I think is a very positive sign. They're taking it seriously. I've already had a call with I suspect the chief prosecutor. And you know, again, we need to listen when people try to tell us who they are. Any other questions? Thank you for your time today. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you.